Gary Sanchez is batting 131 this season. 131. The lowest batting average for a full season, and obviously this is a short season, but among qualifying players, the lowest batting average in a season in Major League history is 168. Gary Sanchez is batting 131. The player who hit 168 was Chris Davis a couple years back. And he became, for all of professional sports, not even just baseball, he became the epitome of garbage when it comes to professional sports. He became the laughingstock of every sports outlet in the world. And now we look at Gary Sanchez. Chris Davis hit 16 home runs that year. Gary Sanchez has 7. Shorter season, sure. Gary Sanchez is on pace for like 20 in a full season, okay? Every other stat, he's worse than Chris Davis, and even worse defensively, which is hard because Chris Davis is atrocious defensively. Gary Sanchez, at this point in time, I am 100% serious about this, is the worst player in Major League Baseball. The worst. There is not a player that does worse things for their team than Gary Sanchez. Literally. I'm not even exaggerating. He is the worst player in Major League Baseball. He is hitting 130. 130. And he is the worst defensive catcher in baseball. He's leading the league. People say, oh, he figured out his pass balls. He figured out his blocking. He's leading the league in pass balls, and he's leading the league in wild pitches allowed. Leading the league in both of those categories. People say, well, his defense, it's not great, but, the bat makes up for it. Think about that. Think about that for a second. His bat makes up for it. He is hitting 37 points. 37 points below the worst single-season batting average in Major League history. And people say, well, but the power. He has power. Okay? So, even though he does everything else literally as badly as you could possibly do it and still be a professional baseball player, he has power. Gary Sanchez has 7 home runs. 8 home runs. I was wrong about that. 8 home runs. Okay? His OPS is 590. 590. Okay? That is not power. Okay? Every once in a while, he connects, whatever you want to call it, closes his eyes, happens to make contact with the ball, goes over the fence. Okay? Gary Sanchez has had about 135 at-bats this year. Okay? He has 8 home runs. Kyle Higashioka. Think about it. Kyle Higashioka has a quarter of those at-bats and 4 home runs. So, per at-bat, he is hitting twice as many home runs as Gary Sanchez, which is the only thing that you told me Gary Sanchez can do well. Kyle Higashioka, who I don't want to rip on Kyle Higashioka, okay? But he is no Johnny Bench. The only thing that Gary Sanchez does well, Kyle Higashioka does twice as well this season. And I don't, the funniest thing is, well, he's a catcher. So his offense isn't great, but it's good for a catcher. You can't use the for a catcher argument when he's the worst catcher I've ever seen playing in Major League Baseball games. Because if you think about it, the whole point of for a catcher is you sacrifice some offense because catcher is a very important, very demanding, very difficult to find position. It is not difficult to take a random person who has no value, no skill whatsoever, and write a C or a 2 next to his name on the lineup card. That takes nothing. It's not hard to do that. Okay? If you put Mike Trout behind the plate, would he suddenly become better offensively? No, because he wouldn't be able to get the job done defensively. And neither can Gary Sanchez. He looks lost behind the plate. And he has for 5 years. People say, well, he's in a slump. What? He's in a slump. Over the last 3 seasons, he's hitting .211 with a 727 OPS. Three seasons. That's a really long slump. Every single time he hits a home run, people say, "Oh, maybe this is what it's going to be to break him out of the slump." How come Tyler Wade isn't in a 3-year slump? How come Jesus Montero, when he came up and was horrible, how come he wasn't in a 3-year slump? How come Chris Davis isn't in a 3-year slump? He was really good at one point. He was a top 5 MVP guy at one point. How come he's not in a really long slump? Maybe he's just bad, which he is. And maybe Gary Sanchez is even worse. He is the worst Major League Baseball player in the league right now. Literally the worst. Literally the worst. He has negative framing runs, which is an analytics stat that I don't care about. But his strike percentage is below 50%, which is ridiculous. I mean, some guys have that, but it's really, really bad. And he is incapable of doing anything on a baseball field. Literally. Like, he's really, really bad. So that I was right about. I've been right for 5 years. I said the Yankees have Austin Romine last year, who's not that good. Really not that good. But he is the best catcher in their system. They let him go. Okay. Now they have Gary Sanchez. Well, now they bring in like 10 other guys in case Gary Sanchez does poorly, because like that could happen, right? One of them being Erik Kratz, who's raking offensively, but like I don't think he's a great offensive player. However, the Yankees pitchers, I have no idea why nobody talks about this. All you analytics people out there, you're like, oh, analytics, blah, blah, blah. This guy, when he's playing, creates this many runs and all that nonsense, okay? When Gary Sanchez is behind the plate, the Yankees pitching staff has a 5.06 ERA. 5.06. When Erik Kratz is catching, 2.11. Think about that. When Erik Kratz is catching, the Yankees give up 3 fewer runs per game than when Gary Sanchez is catching. Does Gary Sanchez add more than 3 runs with his bat that is making up for that lackluster defense? No. So, the best catcher right now on the Yankees roster is Erik Kratz, which is not that good because he's not that good. I don't know if this 2 ERA is going to stick. If it does, maybe he's the best catcher in the league, because that's way more important than an occasional ball going over the fence. But even if it doesn't, he's the best catcher in the Yankees system right now. I would take Kyle Higashioka over Gary Sanchez. And it's the one problem that I think could hold the Yankees back.